My sister-in-law's wedding planner called. Your mother-in-law canceled your invitation. I replied, That's fine, she continued. She said she doesn't want failures at her daughter's wedding. I smiled because the five-star catering company they hired, I own it. At 6 p.m., I prepared a surprise that made her scream. Hi, this is Jennifer from Blissful Events. I'm calling about the Bennett Morrison wedding next month. I need to confirm something with you. I was in the middle of reviewing contracts at my office, but I put down my pen. Sure, what do you need? There was a pause, an uncomfortable one. I'm really sorry to inform you that your invitation has been canceled. Mrs. Bennett requested that we remove you from the guest list. I felt my stomach drop, but I kept my voice steady. I see. Did she give a reason? Another pause, longer this time. She said, Jennifer's voice dropped to almost a whisper. She said she doesn't want failures at her daughter's wedding. The words hit me like a slap. I'd heard worse from my mother-in-law over the past 4 years, but never something this direct. Never something meant to exclude me from a family event so publicly. I should have been angry. I should have cried. Instead, I felt something cold settle in my chest. That's fine, I said calmly. I understand. I'm really sorry, Jennifer said again. She sounded genuinely uncomfortable. If it helps, I think it's completely unfair. Jennifer, I interrupted gently. Just to confirm, you're still maintaining the catering contract with Elite Affairs, correct? Yes, of course. They're the best in the city. Mrs. Bennett insisted on only the best for... That's good, I said. My heart was pounding now, but my voice remained perfectly calm. Because I'm the owner of Elite Affairs. Dead silence. I could hear Jennifer breathing on the other end. I imagined her face, the exact moment of realization hitting her. You're the owner? Her voice was barely above a whisper. Yes. The contract was signed 3 months ago. Everything is proceeding as planned. The event will be flawless, I promise you that. Oh my God, Jennifer breathed. Does Mrs. Bennett know? Apparently not. The company is registered under a corporate name, and I keep a low profile. I prefer my work to speak for itself. I need to call you back, Jennifer said quickly, and the line went dead. I set my phone down on my desk and stared at it. 4 years. 4 years of snide comments. 4 years of being introduced as David's wife, with a tone that suggested I was something he'd scraped off his shoe. 4 years of watching my mother-in-law's lip curl every time I mentioned my work, as if catering was something dirty, something beneath her son. 4 years of my husband saying nothing, doing nothing, letting it happen. I built this company from absolutely nothing. I started in a rental kitchen with borrowed equipment and a beat-up car I used for deliveries. I worked 18-hour days. I burned my hands and ruined my back and cried in walk-in freezers more times than I could count. And now, I had a company that the city's elite fought to book. My events were featured in magazines. I had a waiting list 6 months long. And my mother-in-law had called me a failure. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. Mother-in-law. I picked up. You? The scream was so loud, I had to pull the phone away from my ear. You are the owner of that company? Hello, Patricia? Yes, I own Elite Affairs. You did this on purpose. Her voice was shaking with rage. You planned this. You're going to ruin my daughter's wedding to get back at me. The contract was signed 3 months ago, I said calmly. You hired me because I'm the best. The wedding will be exactly what you paid for. Flawless. You manipulative little... She was sputtering now, incoherent with fury. I'm going to sue you. I'm going to destroy you. I'll make sure you never work in this city again. The contract is legally binding, Patricia. I'd be happy to have my lawyer send you a copy if you've misplaced yours. Any cancellation at this point would cost you triple the amount already paid, plus damages to my company's reputation. It's all detailed in Section 12. The line went quiet. I could hear her breathing heavily. You did this to humiliate us, she said, her voice dropping to something cold and venomous. You've always been jealous of this family. You trapped my son with your... The wedding will be perfect, I interrupted. That's all I have to say. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against my desk, trying to steady myself. The phone rang again. David this time. What did you do? His voice was tight with panic. My mother just called me screaming. My sister is crying. What the hell did you do? I didn't do anything, David. Your family hired my company for the wedding. You should have told us. You should have said something when they booked it. Why? So you could talk them out of hiring the best catering company in the city. So your mother could find another way to humiliate me? That's not fair, he said. But his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? She just had me uninvited from the wedding because I'm a failure, David. Those were her exact words. Silence. You knew, I said slowly, realization dawning. You knew she was going to uninvite me. She mentioned it might be better if... And you said nothing. You were going to let her do it. It's her daughter's wedding. She has a right to invite whoever she wants. I'm your wife. And she's my mother? What was I supposed to do? Start World War III over a wedding invitation? I laughed. It came out bitter and sharp. Yes, David. That's exactly what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to defend me. Just once in 4 years, you were supposed to stand up for me. This is insane, he said. You need to cancel this contract right now. You're making everything worse. No. What? No, the contract stands. The wedding will happen. It will be perfect. You're doing this to punish us. I'm doing this because it's my job, because I'm a professional, and because, for once, your family's going to see exactly what kind of failure I really am. If you go through with this, there will be consequences, David said, his voice turning cold in a way I'd never heard before. My family won't forget this. Good, I said. Neither will I. I hung up. The phone immediately started ringing again. I turned it to silent and watched it light up over and over. Patricia. David. Unknown numbers that were probably other family members. I ignored them all. My assistant, Maya, knocked and poked her head in. Everything okay? I heard yelling. Everything's fine, I said. I was surprised at how steady my voice sounded. The Bennett Morrison wedding is still on schedule, correct? Yes. We're actually ahead of schedule. It's going to be one of our best events. Good. Let's make absolutely sure of that. Maya studied my face. What happened? Nothing I didn't see coming, I said. Eventually. After she left, I sat alone in my office as the sun set outside my window. My phone kept lighting up with calls and messages I didn't answer. Somewhere across the city, my husband's family was panicking. They'd built their entire identity on looking down on me, on treating me like I was nothing, like I'd somehow tricked their precious son into marrying beneath him. And now they needed me. Now I was the one in control. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. Because the worst part wasn't the years of insults. It wasn't even being uninvited from the wedding. The worst part was the sound of my husband's voice on the phone, asking me to cancel the contract, not apologizing for his family, not defending me, just asking me to make myself smaller. Again, my phone buzzed one more time. A text from David. We need to talk. I'm coming over tonight. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I called my lawyer. I changed the locks that night. The locksmith arrived at 7. A middle-aged man who didn't ask questions when I handed him cash and told him I needed it done immediately. He worked quickly, replacing the front and back door locks while I packed David's things into boxes. It felt surreal. 4 years of marriage, and it all fit into 6 cardboard boxes. His expensive watches, his designer suits, the golf clubs he never used, the framed photos of his family that had always dominated our living room. His parents, his sister, his grandparents. Not a single photo of my family. I'd stopped asking why years ago. I was taping up the last box when my phone rang. David, I answered. I'm outside. Why isn't my key working? I changed the locks. Silence. Then, you what? Your things are packed. I'll leave them on the porch. You can't just kick me out of my own house. It's not your house, David. I bought it 2 years ago. with my own money. You signed a postnuptial agreement acknowledging that. Remember? He did remember. He'd signed it without reading it, dismissing my insistence with a wave of his hand. Why do we need this legal stuff? Don't you trust me? He'd said. His mother had been furious when she found out, calling me paranoid and controlling. Now, I was grateful for my paranoia. This is insane, David said. You're overreacting. Let me in so we can talk like adults. We can talk through the door. For God's sake. He stopped. I heard him take a breath. When he spoke again, his voice had changed, softer. The voice he used when he wanted something. Babe, please. I know you're hurt. I know my family hasn't always been welcoming. But this wedding thing, you're blowing it out of proportion. I almost laughed. Blowing it out of proportion? My mom was stressed. She said something stupid. You know how she gets before big events. She called me a failure, David. She didn't mean it like that. Then how did she mean it? He fumbled for words. I could picture him running his hand through his hair, that gesture he made when he was frustrated. Look, you have to understand, she comes from a different generation. She has certain expectations. That I'd be a housewife. That I'd spend my days volunteering at charity galas and planning dinner parties. That I'd be grateful to have married into the Bennett family. That's not fair, isn't it? Tell me one single time in 4 years, when you defended me to your mother. When you told her to stop making comments about my job, my background, my clothes, the way I talk. Silence. That's what I thought, I said. I'm coming from a difficult position here, he said. She's my mother. You're my wife. I'm trying to keep everyone happy. By making me miserable. That's not what I'm doing. Then what are you doing, David? Because from where I'm standing, you're asking me to cancel a contract worth $200,000, destroy my professional reputation, and eat the loss just to make your mother comfortable. After she uninvited me from a family event and called me a failure. It's not about the money. It's always been about the money. You think I didn't notice? When you thought I was a struggling caterer with a rental kitchen, you were embarrassed to bring me to family dinners. You'd introduce me as working in hospitality, like it was something shameful. Now that you know I own a successful company, suddenly you're concerned about marital assets. That's a horrible thing to say. Is it untrue? He didn't answer. I carried the first box to the front door and opened it. David stood on the porch, still in his work clothes, his tie loosened. He looked tired. For a moment, I felt a pang of something. Not quite sympathy, but a ghost of what I'd once felt for him. Then I remembered him on the phone earlier. My family won't forget this. Not, I'm sorry. Not, you didn't deserve that. Just a threat. I handed him the box. The rest are inside. Take them tonight. Where am I supposed to go? Your mother's house has 7 bedrooms. I'm sure she'll be thrilled to have you. His face hardened. You're really doing this. You did this, David. You and your family. I'm just done pretending it's normal. He took the box, his jaw tight. You're making a huge mistake. I've made a lot of mistakes. Marrying into your family was the biggest one. I brought out the remaining boxes while he loaded them into his car. We didn't speak. When he took the last one, he turned back. My lawyer will be in touch, he said. Mine too. He drove away. I locked the door and stood in my suddenly empty living room. My phone was buzzing constantly. I finally looked at it. 43 missed calls. 67 text messages. Most were from Patricia. They'd started with rage and evolved into something more calculated. How dare you treat this family this way after everything we've done for you? David has given you everything. This is how you repay him? You were nothing when he met you. Nothing. And then, an hour ago, the tone had shifted. Perhaps we can discuss this reasonably. I may have spoken harshly. Let's have lunch. We can work this out. Think about David. Think about your marriage. There were messages from David's sister, Amber, too. I can't believe you're doing this to me. This is my wedding. You're so selfish. This is the most important day of my life. Everyone will be talking about this drama instead of my wedding. Are you happy now? Not one message acknowledged what had been said to me. Not one apology. Just outrage that I wasn't absorbing their cruelty quietly anymore. I was about to put the phone down when it rang again. A number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mrs. Bennett? A man's voice, smooth and professional. It's Ms. Hartley, actually. I kept my name. Of course, my apologies. This is Robert Chen from Whitmore and Associates. I'm calling on behalf of the Bennett family. A lawyer, already. I'm listening, I said. Mrs. Bennett, excuse me, Ms. Hartley. My clients are understandably distressed about the current situation. They'd like to resolve this matter amicably before it escalates further. What situation would that be? The catering contract for the Bennett-Morrison wedding. I understand there's been some miscommunication within the family, and my clients would like to explore options for terminating the contract with mutual satisfaction. The contract has a termination clause. It's quite clear. Early termination costs triple the contracted amount plus projected loss of revenue and reputational damages. It's all in Section 12. Yes, I've reviewed the contract. It's quite comprehensive. He paused. My clients were hoping we could negotiate something more reasonable. Perhaps a partial refund arrangement? Mr. Chen, the contract was signed 3 months ago. My team has spent hundreds of hours on preparation. We've ordered specialty ingredients, hired additional staff, coordinated with multiple vendors. The event is in 3 weeks. There's nothing reasonable about asking me to absorb that loss. I understand, but given the personal circumstances are that my mother-in-law hired the best catering company in the city for her daughter's wedding. The company she hired happens to be mine. That doesn't change the contract. Ms. Hartley, I'm going to be frank with you. My clients are prepared to make this very difficult if you don't cooperate. They have significant resources and connections in the city. Are you threatening me, Mr. Chen? I'm simply pointing out the reality of the situation. Something cold settled in my stomach. Then let me point out my reality. I have the signed contract. I have documented proof of all expenses incurred. I have witness testimony about the reason for the attempted cancellation. If your clients want to make this difficult, I'm more than prepared to defend my business in court. And I promise you, Mr. Chen, the optics of a wealthy family trying to bully a small business owner after insulting and uninviting her won't play well in this city. Silence on the other end. We'll be in touch, he said finally, and hung up. I sat down on my couch, suddenly exhausted. This was just the beginning. I knew the Bennetts. They didn't accept defeat. They didn't apologize. They just escalated. My phone buzzed with a new message. Maya, my assistant and best friend, just saw a weird post on social media. Check Amber Bennett's Instagram. My hands were shaking as I opened the app. Amber had posted a photo of herself looking tearful, artfully posed in soft lighting. The caption read, "When family tries to ruin the happiest day of your life, praying for peace and forgiveness. Some people can't handle others' happiness. Wedding planning, your family drama, or staying positive." The comments were already pouring in. What happened? Who would do this to you? You deserve better. She was playing the victim, publicly, and people were eating it up. I took a screenshot and forwarded it to my lawyer with a message, adding this to the file. Then I opened my laptop and started documenting everything. Every message, every call, every threat. If the Bennetts wanted war, I'd give them one. But I'd fight it my way, quietly, professionally, with evidence. At midnight, David sent one final text. My mom is talking to her lawyer about getting an injunction to stop you from working the wedding. Just FYI. I stared at the message. Not, I'm sorry, not, this has gone too far. Just another threat, delivered casually. Like he was commenting on the weather. I typed back, tell her good luck with that. Then I blocked his number. I sat in my dark living room, my house finally quiet, finally mine. And I cried. Not because I was losing David. Somewhere in the last few hours, I'd realized I'd lost him a long time ago. Maybe I'd never really had him. I cried because I'd wasted 4 years trying to be good enough for people who would never see me as anything but beneath them. I cried because I was tired. But mostly, I cried because I knew this was just the beginning, and I had no idea how much worse it was going to get before it got better. My phone lit up one more time, an email notification, the subject line, Elite Affairs, negative review alert. I opened it. Someone had just left a 1-star review on every platform my company used. The username was anonymous, but the message was identical on all of them. Unprofessional, unreliable. This company will ruin your event. Do not book. Posted 14 minutes ago. I checked the IP address through my website's back-end tracking. The location matched Patricia's address. I took a screenshot, added it to my documentation folder, and sent it to my lawyer with a timestamp. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on my couch, and began planning exactly how I was going to make sure the Bennett Morrison wedding was the most flawless, perfect, unforgettable event this city had ever seen. Not for them. For me. To prove to myself that I was never the failure they said I was, even if it killed me. The attack started small. The first supplier called on Thursday morning. Andreas, my produce vendor for 3 years, the man who'd given me credit when I was just starting out and couldn't pay up front. "I'm really sorry," he said, his voice tight with discomfort, "but I can't fulfill your order for the Bennett wedding." I was in my office, reviewing the final menu. I stopped mid-sentence. "What? Andreas, we confirmed this 2 weeks ago. Everything is locked in." I know, but I got a call yesterday. Someone saying your company is going under, that you're not going to be able to pay. I can't take that risk on an order this size." My stomach dropped. "Andreas, you know me. Have I ever missed a payment? No, but have I ever given you any reason to doubt my business? It's not about that. This person, they seem to know a lot. They mention specific details about your finances, about problems with your marriage. Someone is lying to you. My company is completely solvent. I can send you our financial statements right now." He hesitated. "I already committed the produce to another client. I'm sorry. I really am." "Who called you?" They didn't give a name, but it was a woman, older. She sounded very authoritative. "Patricia." I hung up and immediately called my backup supplier. They'd already received a similar call. So had my third option. By noon, I'd lost my florist, my linen company, and my rental supplier for chairs and tables. All of them had received anonymous calls warning them about my failing business and legal troubles. I sat at my desk, staring at my computer screen, my hands clenched into fists. They were trying to sabotage the wedding, not just to hurt me, but to make sure I couldn't deliver, to prove I really was a failure. Maya knocked and entered without waiting for an answer. She took one look at my face and closed the door behind her. "What happened?" "They're calling my suppliers, spreading lies, trying to make sure we can't execute the wedding." Maya's eyes widened. "Can they do that?" "Apparently they're doing it." I pulled up my contact list, but they don't know how many connections I actually have. They think I'm still the struggling caterer from 4 years ago. I spent the next 6 hours on the phone. I called suppliers in the next county over. I reached out to colleagues who owed me favors. I contacted a florist I'd helped when she was starting out, a rental company I'd recommended to a dozen clients. By evening, I'd replaced every single vendor. It cost more. I'd have to eat the difference. But the wedding would happen. Maya ordered Thai food, and we ate in my office while confirming the new arrangements. "You know this is insane, right?" Maya said, poking at her pad thai. "You could just cancel. Take the termination fee. It's more money than the original contract anyway." "It's not about the money." "Then what's it about?" I set down my fork. "It's about everyone who's ever looked at me like I was worthless. My mother-in-law, my husband, his whole family. They think I'm nothing. They think I got lucky. They think I can't actually do this. So, you're going to prove them wrong by giving them the wedding of their dreams? I'm going to prove them wrong by showing them exactly what I'm capable of. And then I'm going to walk away and never look back." Maya studied me for a long moment. "You know, the vindication might not feel as good as you think it will. Maybe not, but being a doormat definitely doesn't feel good. That night, I stayed late at the office, finalizing orders and confirming deliveries. It was past 11 when I finally drove home. My phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Is this Miss Hartley? A young woman's voice, nervous. Yes. Who is this? My name is Sophie. I'm a server. I was supposed to work your event next month. The Bennett wedding? My pulse quickened. Supposed to? I got a call today. A woman offered me $500 to not show up. She said there would be other opportunities to work for her in the future if I proved I was loyal. I pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it for a moment, unable to believe what I was hearing. Then I brought it back. Did you take the money? No. I'm calling because it felt wrong. She wouldn't give me her name, but she mentioned she was the mother of the bride. I figured you should know. Relief flooded through me. Thank you, Sophie. Really. Did anyone else get this call? I don't know. Maybe? She made it sound like she was calling everyone on the staff list. If you hear anything else, will you let me know? Of course. And Miss Hartley, I've worked a lot of your events. You're fair, you pay on time, and you treat your staff well. Whatever's going on, I'm not going to let someone sabotage you. After I hung up, I sat in my car in the dark driveway. Patricia wasn't just spreading lies to vendors. She was trying to buy off my staff. I went inside and opened my laptop. I pulled up the contract for the event and reviewed the staff list. 23 people. If even half of them took similar offers, the event would be a disaster. I couldn't let that happen. I sent an email to my entire staff scheduled for the event. Subject: Bennett Morrison Wedding. Important update, team. I want to address something directly. You may receive contact from individuals attempting to interfere with this event. They may offer you money to not show up or spread false information about our company. I want to be clear. Elite Affairs is not going out of business. We are not in financial trouble. These are malicious lies designed to sabotage a single event due to personal conflicts. If you've received any such contact, please forward it to me immediately. I am documenting everything for legal action. For anyone who shows up and works this event professionally, I am adding a 50% bonus to your contracted rate. This is in addition to regular pay, not instead of. I have always treated you fairly. I am asking you to trust me now. Thank you, Mira Hartley. I hit send and closed my laptop. 50% bonuses would cost me another $15,000. Money I didn't have to spend. But I didn't have a choice. I was going to bed when my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. You're making this so much harder than it needs to be. Just walk away. I stared at the message. Then I saved it and added it to my documentation folder. Another text came through. My family has connections you can't imagine. You think you're winning, but you're not. I recognized the tone. David. I typed back. I thought I blocked you. New phone. We need to talk. No, we don't. My lawyer reviewed the house situation. You can't just kick me out. I have rights. Your name isn't on the deed. You have no rights. We're still married. Community property laws don't apply to assets acquired before marriage or clearly maintained separately during marriage. I bought the house with my own money. You contributed nothing. Read the postnup you signed. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared, appeared again. You've changed. You're not the woman I married. I laughed out loud, alone in my bedroom. You're right. The woman you married would have canceled the contract, apologized to your mother, and spent the rest of her life trying to be good enough for people who would never accept her. I'm not her anymore. You're going to regret this. I already regret 4 years of my life. What's a little more? I blocked the new number too. The weekend passed in a blur of work. I confirmed every detail of the wedding 3 times. I personally visited every vendor to ensure they understood the situation and wouldn't fold under pressure. Monday morning, I walked into my office to find Maya waiting with her laptop open, her face pale. You need to see this. She turned the screen toward me. It was a Facebook post from an account called Small Business Watch, created 3 days ago. The post had been shared 47 times. Beware, elite affairs, catering, multiple complaints of unprofessional behavior, broken contracts, and food safety violations. Owner Mira Hartley is currently facing legal action from multiple clients. Do not book this company. My vision blurred at the edges. There's more, Maya said quietly. She pulled up Yelp, Twitter, Google reviews. All of them had similar posts, all from accounts created in the last 3 days, all posting identical or nearly identical warnings. This is a coordinated attack, I said. It's defamation. Clear, documented defamation. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer, Richard. I was just about to call you, he said when he answered. I've been monitoring the situation. This crossed a line. We have grounds for a cease and desist, possibly a lawsuit for damages. How long will that take? To get a cease and desist out, I can have it drafted today. To actually sue? Months? Maybe longer? The wedding is in 2 weeks. I know. The timing is deliberate. They're banking on you not being able to fight back quickly enough. I close my eyes. What do I do? Document everything. Screenshot every post, every review, every message. Note the timing. I'll start drafting the cease and desist. In the meantime, respond to the reviews professionally. Don't engage with the accusations, just state facts. Other people can see through coordinated attacks if you handle it right. I spent the rest of the day doing exactly that. Under every fake review, I posted the same response. Elite Affairs has been in business for 5 years with an unblemished record. We have never had a food safety violation, never broken a contract, and never been sued by a client. These posts appear to be part of a coordinated harassment campaign related to a personal dispute. Anyone with genuine concerns is welcome to contact our office directly to review our credentials, health department records, and client testimonials. By evening, the tide was starting to turn. Real clients, people whose events I'd actually catered, started posting their own reviews defending the company. I've used Elite Affairs 3 times. Always professional, always perfect. These fake reviews are ridiculous. Mira Hartley catered my daughter's wedding. It was the best decision we made. Don't believe these lies. This is clearly a smear campaign. Anyone who's actually worked with this company knows these accusations are false. I sat back in my chair, reading the supportive comments, and felt something break open in my chest. These people didn't owe me anything, but they were standing up for me anyway. Maya appeared in my doorway with 2 glasses of wine. She handed me one and sat down. You okay? I don't know. Ask me in 2 weeks. The staff bonuses worked, by the way. Everyone confirmed they're still coming. A few of them forwarded the bribe attempts they received. Same woman, different amounts offered depending on the role. Apparently, she offered the head chef $2,000. Did he take it? He told her to go to hell. I smiled despite everything. Remind me to give him a raise. You know you're probably going to lose money on this event, right? Even with the original fee, after the bonuses, the replacement vendors at higher rates, the legal fees. I know. So why are you doing this? I took a sip of wine, considering the question. Because if I let them win, they were right about me. I would be the failure they always said I was. That's not how it works. Maybe not, but it's how it feels. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, For what it's worth, I think you're the strongest person I know. I don't feel strong. I feel tired. That's what strength looks like sometimes. That night, I drove home exhausted. As I pulled into my driveway, I saw someone sitting on my front porch. My heart jumped into my throat. I thought about calling the police. Then the figure stood up, and I recognized her. Amber. David's sister. The bride. I got out of my car slowly. What are you doing here? She looked terrible. Her eyes were red, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing sweatpants and an oversized hoodie. Nothing like the polished, Instagram-perfect image she always projected. I need to talk to you, she said. I don't think that's a good idea. Please, just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I unlocked the door. We went inside, but I didn't sit down. I stood in my entryway with my arms crossed. Talk. Amber looked around my living room, taking in the space David used to occupy. He really moved out. Your family has made it very clear I'm not good enough for him. I'm just agreeing with you. That's not... She stopped, took a breath. I didn't come here to fight. Then why did you come? Because this has gotten out of control. She looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen in her before. Fear. My mother is obsessed. She's on the phone all day, every day, trying to find ways to hurt you, to force you to cancel. My father keeps telling her to stop, but she won't listen. David is caught in the middle, and he's miserable. And I just wanted one perfect day. And now it's all about this war between you and my mother. I didn't start this war, Amber. I know. Her voice cracked. I know you didn't. She called you a failure. She uninvited you. She's trying to destroy your business. I know all of that. And yet you're here asking me to do what? Give up? Let her win? I'm asking you to end this. Please. Cancel the contract. Take the termination fee. Move on with your life. Let me have my wedding. Without all this drama. I stared at her. You have no idea what you're asking me. I'm asking you to be the bigger person. No. You're asking me to be the doormat. Again. Like I've been for 4 years. You're asking me to let your mother spread lies about my business, threaten my livelihood, try to destroy everything I've built, and just walk away. For your convenience. It's my wedding day, and it will be perfect. That's what you're paying me for. I have never, not once, suggested that I would do anything less than flawless work. But that's not enough for your family, is it? You don't just want a perfect wedding. You want me to disappear. To admit that you were right about me all along. Tears were running down Amber's face now. I never said you were a failure. You never defended me either, not once. Not when your mother made comments about my clothes, my job, my background. You just sat there and let it happen. I didn't think it was that bad, because it wasn't happening to you. She wiped her face with her sleeve. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. You're right. We treated you terribly. My mother is impossible, and my brother is weak, and I was selfish. You're right about all of it. I felt something shift in my chest. It wasn't quite forgiveness, but it was close to it. Thank you, I said quietly. But I'm still not canceling. Why not? If you hate us so much, why do you want to be at my wedding? I won't be at your wedding. I'll be working it. There's a difference. I moved to the door and opened it. Your event will be flawless, Amber. I promise you that. Not because I care about your family, but because that's who I am. I don't do halfway. I don't do good enough. I do perfect. And when it's over, you'll have your dream wedding. And I'll have my peace. And we'll never have to see each other again. She stood there for a moment, then walked to the door. She paused at the threshold. For what it's worth, she said softly, I hope you find someone who deserves you. My brother never did. After she left, I locked the door and leaned against it. 2 weeks. Just 2 more weeks. I could survive 2 more weeks. I had to. The cease and desist letter arrived at Patricia's house on a Wednesday morning, exactly 1 week before the wedding. Richard called me to confirm. It was delivered by courier at 9 a.m. She signed for it personally. And now we wait. She has 24 hours to remove all defamatory content and issue a public retraction, or we proceed with a lawsuit. I was at the venue doing a final walkthrough with the events coordinator. The space was beautiful, a historic mansion with gardens that overlooked the river. Patricia had spared no expense. Of course she hadn't. This was her daughter's wedding. Her chance to show off to the city's elite. Do you think she'll comply? I asked. Richard laughed. Based on everything you've told me about this woman? No, I think she'll double down. He was right. At 2 p.m., my phone started exploding with notifications. Patricia had posted on Facebook. Not from a fake account this time, but from her own personal profile with 5,000 friends. The post was long, detailed, and completely unhinged. I want to address the vicious lies being spread about me and my family. We are the victims of a vindictive, mentally unstable woman who trapped my son into marriage and is now trying to destroy us. Mira Hartley is using my daughter's wedding as leverage to extort money and attention. She has threatened our family, harassed our vendors, and is attempting to ruin the most important day of my daughter's life. I have been advised by my attorney not to say more, but I cannot stay silent while this woman destroys everything we've built. She is dangerous, manipulative, and should not be trusted with anyone's event. Truth matters. Our family first, cars exposing lies. The post had been up for 40 minutes and already had 200 comments and 100 shares. Most of the comments were from Patricia's friends, pearl clutching and offering support. I can't believe this. You poor thing. Some people are just evil. Praying for you. This is what happens when people marry outside their class. That last comment had 63 likes. I sat down on a bench in the garden, staring at my phone. Maya appeared next to me. She'd been inside confirming the placement of the tables. She took one look at my face and grabbed my phone. She read the post. Her expression darkened with every word. "This is beyond defamation now," she said. "This is a public declaration of war." She called me mentally unstable. She called you a lot of things, all of them actionable. Maya was already typing on her phone. "I'm sending this to Richard right now." My phone rang. "Speak of the devil." "I just saw it," Richard said before I could speak. "This is actually good news." "How is this possibly good news?" "Because she just handed us a lawsuit on a silver platter. Everything in that post is demonstrably false and specifically designed to damage your professional reputation. We're not talking about a settlement anymore. We're talking about real damages." "I don't want to sue her, Richard. I just want her to stop." "She's not going to stop. You know that, right? People like this don't stop until they're forced to stop." I closed my eyes. The sun was warm on my face, the garden was beautiful, and I was so tired I could barely think straight. What do I do? Screenshot everything. Don't respond to the post. Don't engage. I'll file an emergency motion for a restraining order and an injunction first thing tomorrow morning. In the meantime, let her keep talking. Everything she says just strengthens our case. After I hung up, I sat in silence for a long moment. Maya sat down next to me. "You know what the crazy thing is? In a week, this will all be over. You'll deliver the most perfect wedding this city has ever seen. You'll prove everyone wrong, and then you can walk away." "What if I can't do it?" The words came out small, scared. What if all this stress, all this sabotage, what if something goes wrong and the wedding actually is a disaster? It won't be. How do you know? Because I've worked with you for 3 years. I've seen you pull off miracles with half the resources and twice the problems. This wedding? You've overprepared for every possible scenario. You have backup plans for your backup plans. The only way this fails is if the venue literally burns down. Don't say that. You'll jinx it. She smiled. You're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. And in a week, you're going to be free. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept refreshing Patricia's Facebook posts, watching the comments multiply. Some people were starting to question her story, asking for proof, pointing out inconsistencies. But her friends rallied around her, attacking anyone who dared to suggest she might be lying. At 2 a.m., someone knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw David standing on my porch. I didn't open the door. Go away. I need to talk to you. Please. I have nothing to say to you. Mira, please. Just 5 minutes. Your sister already tried this. I'm not canceling. I'm not here about the wedding. His voice cracked. I'm here about us. I laughed, harsh and bitter. There is no us. There hasn't been for a long time. That's not true. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can... David, your mother posted on Facebook calling me mentally unstable today. And you're on my doorstep at 2 a.m. asking me to go to marriage counseling? Silence. Did you see the post? I asked. Yes. Did you defend me? More silence. That's what I thought. Go home, David. This is my home. No, it's not. It never was. This is my home. I bought it. I pay for it. You just lived here. I love you. The words should have meant something. A year ago, they would have. But now they just sounded hollow. No, you don't. You love the idea of me. The version of me that smiled and stayed quiet and made your family comfortable. But that person is gone. And honestly, I don't think she ever really existed. You're making a mistake. Probably. But it's my mistake to make. I heard him walk away. I watched through the peephole as he sat in his car for a long time before finally driving off. I went back to bed but didn't sleep. The next morning, Richard called with an update. The judge granted us a temporary restraining order. Patricia has been ordered to remove all defamatory posts and refrain from contacting you, your business, your staff, or your vendors. Violation carries potential contempt charges. Will she comply? She has to. This is a court order. By noon, Patricia's Facebook post was gone. So were all the fake reviews, the anonymous warnings, everything. The silence felt strange, like the eye of a hurricane. I knew it wasn't over. It was just paused. Friday morning, 4 days before the wedding, I arrived at my office to find Maya waiting outside. She looked shaken. What's wrong? Someone broke into the office last night. My stomach dropped. I pushed past her and went inside. The damage was strategic. They destroyed my computer, pouring some kind of liquid over it. They'd shredded the physical files for the Bennett wedding. They'd stolen the backup drive I kept in my desk drawer, but they hadn't touched anything else. Not the petty cash, not the equipment, not the other client files. This wasn't a robbery, this was a targeted sabotage. I already called the police, Maya said. They're on their way. I stood in the middle of my destroyed office, looking at 4 years of work scattered across the floor. Then I started laughing. Maya stared at me. Are you okay? They don't know about cloud storage, I said. They destroyed the computer, stole the backup drive, shredded the papers. But everything is backed up online. Every document, every contract, every detail of the wedding. Maya's eyes widened. Everything? Everything. I pulled out my phone and logged into my cloud account. There it was. Every single file, perfectly preserved. The police arrived and took statements. They dusted for fingerprints. They took photos of the damage. Do you have any idea who might have done this? The officer asked. I have a very good idea, I said, but I can't prove it yet. After the police left, Maya and I spent the day replacing the computer and reprinting the necessary documents. By evening, we were back on track. Richard called as I was locking up. I heard about the break-in. Please tell me you're pressing charges. Against who? I don't have proof. The timing is suspicious as hell. The restraining order goes through and suddenly your office gets broken into? Suspicious isn't proof. Then get proof. Install security cameras, document everything. If they try again, they won't. They think they won. They think they destroyed everything. Did they? I smiled. Not even close. That weekend, I threw myself into final preparations. I personally confirmed every delivery. I walked through the event timeline with my entire staff. I prepared for every possible contingency. On Sunday night, 2 days before the wedding, I was at the venue overseeing the setup of the kitchen when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Miss Hartley? A man's voice, older, unfamiliar. Yes. Who is this? My name is Robert Bennett. I'm David's father. I was hoping we could talk. I froze. In 4 years of marriage, David's father had spoken directly to me maybe a dozen times. He was always polite but distant, letting Patricia run the family while he focused on his law practice. I don't think that's a good idea, Mr. Bennett. Please, just a few minutes. I'm alone. Patricia doesn't know I'm calling. Against my better judgment, I said, I'm listening. I want to apologize. His voice was heavy. Not just for my wife, though. God knows she owes you more apologies than I can count. But for myself, for staying silent, for letting things get this bad. I didn't know what to say. I've read the police report about the break-in at your office, he continued. I've seen the cease and desist letter. I've watched my wife spiral into something I don't recognize, and I've done nothing to stop it. Why are you telling me this? Because someone needs to. Because you deserve to know that not everyone in this family thinks you're the villain. He paused. I know about the catering company. I've known for over a year. David mentioned it once, in passing, then asked me not to tell his mother. I looked you up. I've seen your reviews, your credentials. You built something remarkable. My throat tightened. Thank you. I'm not asking you to cancel the contract. I know that ship has sailed. I'm just asking you to believe that not everyone in this family is like Patricia. And I'm telling you that whatever happens at this wedding, you have my respect. You've earned it." After he hung up, I sat in the empty kitchen for a long time. It didn't change anything. Not really, but it helped. Just a little. Monday morning, the day before the wedding, I woke up at 5 a.m. and couldn't fall back asleep. I reviewed the checklist for the 100th time. Everything was ready. The food was prepped. The staff was confirmed. The venue was set. The flowers, the linens, the rentals, everything was in place. I'd done it. Despite everything. Despite the sabotage and the lies and the break-in, I'd done it. Now, I just had to execute. At noon, my phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "You need to see this. Now." I called her. "What's wrong?" "Check Amber's Instagram." I pulled up the app with shaking hands. Amber had posted a photo of herself in her wedding dress, radiant and beautiful. The caption read, "Tomorrow is the day. After all the stress and drama, it's finally here. So grateful for everyone who stood by me and helped make this happen. Special shout out to Elite Affairs for pushing through despite everything. Can't wait to celebrate. Bride-to-be, wedding day are finally happening." The comments were overwhelmingly positive. People congratulating her, telling her she looked beautiful, saying they couldn't wait to see the wedding photos. A few people asked about the drama she'd mentioned. She'd responded to one, "Just some family stuff. Nothing that matters now. Tomorrow is about love and celebration, not negativity." It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even an acknowledgement of what had really happened. But it was something. It was her telling the world that the wedding was going forward, that I was the caterer, that she was grateful. It was a small olive branch extended publicly where her mother could see it. I texted back to Maya, "It's fine. It's good, actually." She replied immediately, "You ready for tomorrow?" I looked around my office, at the organized files, the confirmed schedules, the backup, plans. At everything I'd built and everything I'd fought to protect. Yes, I'm ready. That night, I did something I hadn't done in weeks. I took a bath. I made myself dinner. I poured a glass of wine and sat on my couch in my house that was finally, completely mine. Tomorrow, I would wake up before dawn. I would go to the venue and orchestrate the most perfect wedding this city had ever seen. I would prove to everyone, but mostly to myself, that I was never a failure. And then I would walk away, free. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Good luck tomorrow. You're going to do great. Sophie." The server who'd warned me about the bribe attempt. I smiled and typed back, "Thank you. See you tomorrow." I went to bed early, but sleep took a long time to come. When it did, I dreamed of gardens and flowers and a version of myself who stood tall and unashamed in front of people who'd once made her feel small. In the dream, I wasn't invisible anymore. I was free. I woke up at 4 a.m. on the day of the wedding, not because my alarm went off, because I couldn't sleep anymore. I lay in bed for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding. Today was the day. Everything I'd fought for, everything I'd endured, it all came down to the next 16 hours. I got up, showered, and dressed in my standard event uniform. Black pants, black button-down shirt, comfortable shoes. Professional, invisible, efficient. I pulled my hair back into a tight bun and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired, but I looked ready. I grabbed my equipment bag and headed to the venue. The sun was just starting to rise when I pulled into the parking lot of the Riverside Mansion. The garden looked magical in the early morning light, mist rising from the river, birds singing in the trees. It really was going to be a beautiful wedding. Maya was already there, along with 3 of my senior staff members. They were unloading supplies from the truck. "Morning, boss," Maya said. She handed me a coffee. "Ready to make some magic?" "Ready to get this over with," I said. The next 6 hours were a blur of controlled chaos. The kind of chaos I loved, the kind I was born to manage. Flowers arrived, linens were placed, tables were set with meticulous precision. The kitchen was organized like a military operation. Every dish, every garnish, every detail was checked and rechecked. By 10 a.m., the venue staff arrived. By 11, the musicians were setting up. By noon, the space had been transformed into something out of a magazine. Patricia and her family were scheduled to arrive at 2 p.m. for photos before the 4 p.m. ceremony. At 1:30, I was in the kitchen doing a final check of the hors d'oeuvres when Maya poked her head in. "They're here early. The mother of the bride just pulled up." My stomach clenched. "It's fine. We're ready." "You sure you don't want to stay in the kitchen? I can handle anything they need." "No, I'm the owner. If there are any issues, they go through me." I walked out to the main reception area, where the venue coordinator was greeting Patricia and Robert Bennett. Patricia looked exactly like I expected. Perfectly coiffed hair, designer dress, jewelry that probably cost more than my car. She was directing staff to move her daughter's belongings to the bridal suite, her voice sharp and commanding. Then she saw me. Her entire body went rigid. The color drained from her face, then rushed back in an angry red flush. What is she doing here? Patricia's voice was loud enough that several venue staff members turned to look. The coordinator, a professional woman named Claire, who'd worked hundreds of events, stepped smoothly between us. "Mrs. Bennett, Miss Hartley is the owner of the catering company you hired. She's here to ensure everything runs perfectly. I don't want her here. She needs to leave." "Mom." A quiet voice from behind her. Amber had just walked in, already in her hair and makeup, wearing a silk robe. She looked exhausted. "Please don't do this. Not today. Your brother's ex-wife has no business being at your wedding. She's not here as a guest. She's working, like we hired her to do." Amber's voice was firm. She looked at me. "Everything on schedule?" "Everything is perfect," I said. "The ceremony space is ready, the cocktail hour is set up, and dinner will be served exactly as planned." Amber nodded. "Thank you." Patricia looked like she wanted to argue, but Robert placed a hand on her arm. "Patricia, let it go. For Amber's sake." For a moment, I thought Patricia might explode. Her hands were clenched into fists, her jaw tight. But then she turned away from me like I didn't exist and said to Claire, "I need to see the seating arrangements. I want to make sure everything is exactly as I specified." She walked away without looking at me again. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. Robert lingered for a moment. He met my eyes and nodded once, a small gesture of acknowledgement, maybe even apology. Then he followed his wife. "Well," Maya said, appearing at my elbow. "That went better than expected." "The day is young," I said. At 3 p.m., guests started arriving. I watched from the kitchen window as the parking lot filled with expensive cars, women in designer dresses, and men in tailored suits. The city's elite, exactly as Patricia had wanted. The ceremony was scheduled for 4. At 3:45, the musicians started playing. I watched on the security monitor as guests took their seats in the garden. It really was beautiful. The chairs were arranged in perfect rows, white fabric draped elegantly, flowers everywhere. The arch where Amber and her fiancé would stand was decorated with cascading blooms and greenery. At 4 p.m. exactly, the music changed. The wedding party walked down the aisle. Then Amber appeared, and even through the grainy security monitor, I could see she looked stunning. I felt something unexpected, genuine happiness for her. Despite everything, she deserved a beautiful wedding day. The ceremony lasted 25 minutes. When it was over, the guests moved to the cocktail hour space while we flipped the ceremony area for dinner. This was the critical moment. We had exactly 45 minutes to transform the garden from ceremony to reception while serving hors d'oeuvres and drinks to 150 guests. My team moved like a machine. We'd practiced this transition 3 times. Chairs were moved, tables were brought in, linens were placed, centerpieces were positioned. The kitchen staff plated the first course. The servers circulated with champagne and appetizers. At 5:15, the garden was ready. It looked like it had been set for dinner all along, like magic. At 5:30, guests were invited to find their seats. I watched from my position near the kitchen as they filed in, exclaiming over the beauty of the setup. Patricia was at the head table, her face composed in a pleasant expression that didn't reach her eyes. David sat next to his father, looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo. I hadn't seen him up close yet. I wasn't sure I wanted to. At 6 p.m., dinner service began. First course, butternut squash soup with sage oil and toasted pumpkin seeds. The bowls went out in perfect synchronization, placed in front of each guest within a 3-minute window. I stood in the doorway between the kitchen and the dining area, watching my servers move gracefully between tables. Every detail was perfect. The timing, the presentation, the service. Then I saw her. Patricia had stood up from her table and was walking toward me, her face set in hard lines. This was it. The confrontation I'd been dreading all day. She stopped 3 feet away from me, close enough that she didn't have to raise her voice, but far enough that we weren't quite in each other's space. "I want you to know something," she said, her voice low and cold. "You haven't won. You think you've proven something today, but you haven't. All you've proven is that you're petty and vindictive." I kept my expression neutral. "The soup is being very well received. The second course will be out in 15 minutes. Her eyes narrowed. "You're really going to stand there and pretend this is about the food?" "This has always been about the food, Mrs. Bennett. You hired the best catering company in the city. That's what you're getting. You trapped my son. You manipulated your way into this family. And when we finally saw you for what you really are, you couldn't handle it." Something inside me snapped. Not into anger. Into clarity. "Mrs. Bennett," I said quietly, "I'm going to tell you something. And then I'm going to ask you then to return to your seat so I can do my job." She crossed her arms, waiting. "I didn't trap your son. He pursued me. For months. He told me he loved me. That his family would love me too. That I was everything he wanted. And I believed him." I kept my voice level, professional. "I spent 4 years trying to be good enough for your family. I changed the way I dressed. I changed the way I talked. I made myself smaller and quieter and less ambitious because I thought that's what it would take to be accepted. You were never one of us. I know, and it took me far too long to realize that wasn't my failing. It was yours." I met her eyes. "You had a chance to know someone who genuinely loved your son. Someone who worked hard, built a business, and never asked for anything except basic respect. But you couldn't see past your own prejudices. That's your loss, not mine." Patricia's face had gone white. "How dare you? Your daughter's second course is being plated. I suggest you return to your seat. You wouldn't want to miss it. The seared scallops are exceptional." I turned and walked back into the kitchen without waiting for her response. Maya grabbed my arm. I don't want to talk about it. How are we doing on timing?" She blinked, then checked her clipboard. "Right on schedule. Second course goes out in 3 minutes. Perfect. Let's make sure the plating is flawless." The rest of dinner service went smoothly. Second course, seared scallops with cauliflower puree and crispy prosciutto. Third course, herb-crusted lamb with roasted vegetables and red wine reduction. Each course was met with visible appreciation from the guests. I watched from my post as people ate, talked, laughed. Several guests flagged down servers to compliment the food. One woman actually came to the kitchen door to tell me personally that it was the best wedding food she'd ever had. During dessert service, the speeches began. Robert stood and gave a touching father of the bride speech about watching Amber grow up. The groom's father spoke about welcoming her into their family. The best man told funny stories that made everyone laugh. Then David stood up. My stomach clenched. "I'm supposed to give a toast to my sister," he said, his voice carrying across the garden. "But first, I need to say something else." Oh no. These past few weeks have been difficult for our family. There's been conflict and hurt feelings and a lot of anger. He paused, and most of it was unnecessary. Patricia's face was stone. "My sister deserves a perfect wedding day. She deserves to be surrounded by love and happiness. And she deserves to have her wedding catered by someone who clearly loves what they do and does it better than anyone in the city." He looked toward the kitchen. toward me. So I want to publicly thank Elite Affairs for an incredible evening. The food has been outstanding, the service has been impeccable, and despite everything, you showed up and did the job with more professionalism than we had any right to expect. The guests applauded. Some of them were looking around, trying to figure out what he was referring to. David raised his glass. To Amber and James, may your marriage be filled with the kind of love that makes you better people. The kind of love I wish I'd appreciated when I had it. He drank and sat down. I stood in the kitchen doorway, frozen. Maya whispered, "Did he just apologize to you in front of 150 people?" "I think so." "What are you going to do?" I thought about it. Then I walked out of the kitchen and across the garden to where the desserts were being served. I stopped at the head table where Patricia was sitting in rigid silence. "Mrs. Bennett," I said, "I wanted to let you know that everything is on schedule. The cake cutting will happen in 15 minutes and we'll transition to coffee service shortly after." She looked up at me, her eyes cold. "Fine. I also wanted to say that your daughter looks beautiful today. You should be very proud." For just a moment, something flickered in her expression. Not quite warmth, but maybe the tiniest crack in the ice. "Thank you," she said stiffly. I nodded and walked away. At 8 p.m., the cake was cut. At 8:30, dancing began. At 9, the coffee and after-dinner drinks were served. At 9:30, Amber found me near the kitchen. "I need to thank you," she said, "for everything. For not canceling. For making today perfect. For being the bigger person when none of us deserved it." "You're welcome," I said simply. "I know it doesn't fix anything. I know we treated you horribly. But I'm grateful anyway." "I hope you have a wonderful marriage," I said. And I meant it. She hugged me quickly and then went back to her guests. At 10 p.m., and the reception was winding down. Guests were starting to leave. My staff was beginning the breakdown process, packing up equipment, clearing tables. I was standing in the kitchen, checking the final inventory, when David appeared in the doorway. "Can we talk?" he asked. "I'm working. Please, just 2 minutes." I sighed and stepped outside into the service area, away from the noise and the guests. "What do you want, David?" I wanted to apologize. Really apologize. Not the public version. The real one. He ran his hand through his hair, that familiar gesture. "You were right about everything. My family was horrible to you. I was horrible to you. I should have defended you. I should have stood up to my mother. I should have seen what I had before I lost it. Okay, that's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? That I forgive you? That we can try again? I don't know. Maybe?" I looked at him. This man I'd loved for 4 years. This man I'd married and tried so hard to please. And I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just a calm, clear nothing. "I don't forgive you," I said. "Not because I'm holding a grudge, but because I don't think you actually understand what you're apologizing for. You think you were weak. You think you should have been stronger. But the real problem is that you never saw me as your equal. You saw me as someone who should be grateful to be part of your family. Someone who should earn her place. Someone who should change to fit your world instead of you making space for mine in it. That's not true. It is. And until you understand that, any apology is meaningless." I turned to go back inside. "I hope you find someone who you respect enough to defend. Someone you love more than you love your mother's approval. But that someone isn't me. Not anymore." I left him standing there and went back to work. At 11 p.m., the last guest left. At midnight, the breakdown was complete. My team loaded the trucks, exhausted but satisfied. Maya was the last to leave. She hugged me hard. "You did it. It was perfect. You were perfect." "We did it," I corrected. "Thank you for everything." After she left, I did one final walkthrough of the space. The garden was empty now, the lights dim. The flowers already starting to wilt. Tomorrow, this would all be cleaned up. The chairs would be moved, the decorations removed. It would be like none of this ever happened. But I would know. I would know what I was capable of. I would know what I survived. I walked to my car as the first hints of dawn appeared on the horizon. I drove home through empty streets. I unlocked my door and stepped into my house. Mine. All mine. I kicked off my shoes, pulled the pins from my hair, and collapsed onto my couch. And then finally, I cried. Not from sadness, not from anger, from relief. It was over. I was free. I slept for 14 hours. When I finally woke up, it was late afternoon. For a moment, I didn't remember what day it was or why my entire body ached. Then it came back. The wedding. It was over. It was done. I rolled over and checked my phone. 73 notifications. Most of them were from Maya and my staff, congratulating each other in our group chat. Photos of the event, compliments from guests, relieved celebration that we'd pulled it off. There were also 3 emails from potential clients who'd been guests at the wedding, asking about availability for their own events. One message from Richard. Call me when you're up. We need to discuss next steps. And one text from an unknown number. The wedding was beautiful. Thank you for giving my daughter the day she deserved. Robert Bennett. I stared at that last message for a long time. Then I got up, made coffee, and called Richard. There she is, he said when he answered. The woman of the hour. I've been getting calls all morning. About what? About the wedding. Apparently, you're the talk of the town. Several people have reached out asking if you're planning to sue the Bennetts. The rumor mill is working overtime. I took a sip of coffee. I'm not suing anyone. I just want to move on. Are you sure? We have a strong case. The defamation, the break-in, the attempted sabotage? I'm sure. Send them a final cease and desist, making it clear that any future interference with my business will result in legal action. But I don't want to drag this out. I want it over. Richard was quiet for a moment. You know, most people in your position would go for blood. I'm not most people. No, he said. You're not. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right call. The high road might not feel as satisfying, but it's the one you can live with. After I hung up, I spent the rest of Sunday doing absolutely nothing. I watched bad television. I ordered takeout. I sat in my house and enjoyed the silence. Monday morning, I went back to the office. Maya was already there, making coffee and going through the weekend messages. She looked up when I walked in and grinned. The conquering hero returns. Please don't, I said, but I was smiling. Too late. You're a legend. Do you know how many messages we've gotten? 23 new inquiry emails, 16 phone calls. And look at this. She turned her computer screen toward me. It was a review on our website posted yesterday. I attended the Bennett Morrison wedding and was blown away by the food and service. I've been to hundreds of events in this city, and this was easily top 3. Elite Affairs handled everything with incredible professionalism, despite what I understand were very difficult circumstances. If you want the best, book them. You won't regret it. Victoria Ashford. Victoria Ashford. I recognize the name. She was a socialite, a major player in the city's charity circuit, someone who hosted multiple large events every year. She called this morning, Maya said. She wants to book us for a gala in December. Budget is unlimited. I sat down at my desk, feeling dazed. This is really happening. This is really happening. You did it. You proved everyone wrong. And now the people who matter see exactly what you're capable of. Then Maya's expression shifted. She bit her lip, hesitating. What? I asked. There's something else. I didn't want to bring it up right away, but you need to know. She pulled up another email. Remember Marcus Reeves? My stomach dropped. Marcus Reeves. My first investor when I was starting the company 5 years ago. He'd given me $25,000 when no bank would touch me. In return, he'd asked for a small percentage of future profits and first right of refusal if I ever decided to sell. What about him? He emailed this morning. He wants to exercise his buyout clause. I stared at her. What buyout clause? Maya's face was grim. Apparently, there's a clause in your original agreement that allows him to buy you out entirely if the company reaches a certain valuation threshold. And with all the publicity from the wedding, all these new bookings, we just crossed that threshold. My vision blurred at the edges. That's not possible. I would remember signing something like that. I pulled the original contract. It's there. Page 7, Section 3, Subsection B. The language is deliberately vague, buried in legal jargon. but it's there. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. After everything I'd been through, after fighting so hard to keep my business, I was going to lose it anyway? How much time do we have? I asked. 30 days to respond. Either you buy out his share at current market valuation, or he buys you out, his choice. How much would that cost? Maya pulled up a spreadsheet. Based on our current bookings and projected revenue, probably around $300,000, maybe more. I didn't have $300,000. I'd reinvested everything back into the business. My savings had been depleted by the divorce, the legal fees from dealing with the Bennetts, the equipment upgrades. Can he really do this? I asked. Richard would need to review it, but from what I can see, yes. The contract is ironclad. I sat back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. I'd survived Patricia Bennett's sabotage. I'd survived a divorce. I'd survived having my office broken into and my suppliers turned against me. And now, I was going to lose my company to a technicality in a contract I'd signed when I was desperate and naive. Set up a meeting with Richard, I said finally. Today, if possible, and get Marcus Reeves on the phone. I want to hear this from him directly. Marcus agreed to meet me that afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. He was in his late 50s, silver-haired, wearing an expensive suit. He'd made his fortune in real estate, and investing in small businesses was his hobby. Mira, he said, standing when I arrived. You look well. Congratulations on the Bennett wedding. I heard it was spectacular. Cut the pleasantries, Marcus. What's this about a buyout? He gestured for me to sit. I stayed standing. Business is business, he said with a shrug. When I invested in your company, it was a gamble. A $25,000 gamble on a young woman with more ambition than sense. But that contract protected my investment. And now that investment is worth something? You're going to steal my company. I'm not stealing anything. I'm exercising my legal right under a contract you signed willingly. I was 23 years old. I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't know what I was signing. That's not my problem. He took a sip of his coffee. Look, I'll make this simple. You have two options. Option 1, you buy me out. $350,000, and I'm out of your life forever. 350? Maya said 300. That was this morning. The price goes up the longer you wait. Option 2, I buy you out. I'll give you $200,000 for your share of the company, and you walk away. That's insane. This company is worth at least $1 million. Not according to the valuation formula in our contract. And that's the only valuation that matters legally. He leaned back in his chair. You have 30 days. Think it over. I built this company from nothing. You gave me money 5 years ago and haven't been involved since. You don't get to take it from me. Actually, I do. That's what contracts are for. He stood up. I'm not the villain. Here, Mira, I'm a businessman. And business is business. He walked away, leaving me standing in the coffee shop, shaking with rage. I called Richard from the parking lot. Tell me there's a way out of this. I'm reading the contract now, he said. It's airtight. Whoever drafted this knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't a standard investment agreement. This was designed to give him control if the company ever became successful. So I'm screwed. Not necessarily. You have options. You could take out a loan. You could bring in other investors to buy him out. I can't get a loan. I already tried last year when I was expanding. Banks won't touch a catering company without significant collateral. Then you need to find investors. Fast. I spent the next week in a blur of desperate meetings. I pitched to venture capitalists who looked at my financials and shook their heads. I met with private investors who wanted controlling interest in exchange for their money. I called every wealthy person I'd ever catered for, asking if they'd be interested in investing. Everyone said no. The catering industry was too volatile, the profit margins too slim, the risk too high. By the end of the week, I was out of options. I sat in my office at midnight, staring at spreadsheets, trying to figure out how to come up with $350,000 in 3 weeks. Maya found me there at 1 a.m. Go home. You're exhausted. I can't lose this company. I can't. I know. After everything I fought for, after everything I survived, I'm going to lose it all anyway. Maya sat down across from me. There's one more option, one you haven't considered. What? Ask Patricia Bennett for the money. I laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. You're joking. I'm not. Think about it. She's rich. She owes you, and she's been trying to make amends through Robert's charity work offers. What if you went to her and said, I need an investment, not charity. A legitimate business investment with proper returns. She'd laugh in my face. Maybe. Or maybe she'd see it as a way to actually make things right. Real restitution, not just empty words. I stared at Maya. The idea was insane, but I was also out of options. I can't ask her for money, after everything she did to me. You're not asking for a favor. You're offering an investment opportunity. There's a difference. I went home that night and didn't sleep. I spent hours staring at the ceiling, thinking about Patricia Bennett, about asking the woman who'd called me a failure for help, saving my company. It felt like swallowing poison, but it also felt like my only choice. The next morning, I called Robert Bennett. I need to speak with your wife, in person. Can you arrange that? He was quiet for a moment. This is about your business, isn't it? I heard through the grapevine about Marcus Reeves. How did you... He's an acquaintance. He mentioned he was exercising a buyout clause on a catering company. I put two and two together. He paused. I'll set up the meeting. But Mira, are you sure about this? No, but I'm out of choices. 2 days later, I sat in Patricia Bennett's living room. The same living room where she'd screamed at me about ruining her daughter's wedding. The same house where I'd been made to feel small and worthless 100 times. Patricia sat across from me, perfectly composed, her hands folded in her lap. Robert said you wanted to speak with me, she said. I need an investor, $350,000. In exchange, I'm offering 15% equity in Elite Affairs, plus a percentage of annual profits. Her eyebrows rose slightly. You're asking me for money. I'm offering you an investment opportunity. There's a difference. Why me? I took a breath. Because you're the only person I know who has that kind of liquid capital and might have a reason to say yes. What reason would that be? Because you destroyed me, or tried to, and maybe some part of you actually feels bad about that. I met her eyes. I'm not asking for charity. I'm not asking you to make amends. I'm asking you to make a smart business decision. My company is profitable. It's growing. This is a good investment. Patricia was silent for a long moment. Then she said, Tell me about the contract, the one you're trying to get out from under. I explained the situation with Marcus Reeves, the predatory contract I'd signed when I was young and desperate, the buyout clause I'd never fully understood. When I finished, Patricia said, You were taken advantage of. Yes. By a man who saw your desperation and used it against you. Yes. She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at her manicured garden. I did the same thing to you. I saw that you were an outsider, that you wanted to be accepted, and I used that against you. I made you feel small because it made me feel big. Mrs. Bennett, I'm not going to invest in your company, she said. My heart sank. I'd been right. This was a stupid idea. But, she continued, I am going to loan you the money, interest-free, paid back over 5 years, no equity, no ownership, just a loan. I stared at her. Why? Because Robert is right. I need to make actual amends, not just mouth-empty apologies. She turned to face me. I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back the 4 years I made miserable. But I can do this. And I will. I don't want your charity. It's not charity. It's a loan. With a contract. A fair contract. Reviewed by your lawyer and mine. If you don't pay me back, I have legal recourse. This is business. I felt tears prickling at my eyes. I don't understand. Why are you doing this? Because my daughter won't speak to me. Because my son is in therapy because of me. Because my husband looks at me like he doesn't know who I am anymore. Her voice cracked slightly. Because I destroyed a good woman for no reason except my own insecurity, and I need to do something, anything, to prove I'm not completely irredeemable. I wiped my eyes. This doesn't make us friends. I know. This doesn't erase what you did. I know that too. But it might save my company. Then let it. 2 weeks later, the contracts were signed. Patricia's lawyer and Richard worked together to draft a fair, straightforward loan agreement. No hidden clauses, no tricks. Just a simple loan with reasonable terms. I used the money to buy out Marcus Reeves. He wasn't happy about it, but he couldn't argue with cash in hand. When it was done, when the contracts were signed and Marcus was out of my life forever, I sat in my office with Maya and cried. "You did it," she said. "You saved the company." I almost lost it, again. But you didn't. You found a way, even when that way was asking the last person on earth you wanted to ask. I don't know how to feel about Patricia helping me. You don't have to feel anything yet. Just focus on what matters. You're free. Really, truly free. Over the next few months, life settled into something resembling normal. I paid my staff. I took on new clients. I slowly, carefully, started paying back Patricia's loan. She never asked about the business, never checked in. She just quietly accepted the monthly payments and left me alone. 6 months after the loan, I hired Sophie as a full-time staff member. She'd graduated from culinary school and was everything I'd hoped she'd be. Talented, hardworking, eager to learn. Training her felt like passing something forward, like taking the chances I'd been given and multiplying them. One evening, about a year after the wedding, Sophie came into my office looking nervous. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said. "Of course." "How did you do it? How did you survive all of it? The divorce, the sabotage, almost losing the company. How did you keep going?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "I didn't have a choice," I said, or I thought I didn't. But looking back, I realized I did have a choice. I could have given up. I could have walked away. But I chose to fight. Not because I'm brave or strong, but because I couldn't live with myself if I didn't. What if I'm not that strong? You are. You already proved it when you called me about the bribe attempt. You chose integrity over money. That's strength. She smiled, a little uncertainly. "I hope I can be like you someday." "Don't be like me. Be better. Learn from my mistakes. Get a good lawyer before you sign anything. Build a support system. Don't marry someone whose family treats you like garbage." I smiled. Be the version of me that made smarter choices. 18 months after the wedding, on a random Tuesday, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Amber standing there, very pregnant, glowing. "I'm in town visiting my parents," she said. "I wanted to see you before I left." "Come in." We sat in my living room, the same living room where she'd come to beg me to cancel the catering contract. It felt like a lifetime ago. "I'm having a girl," she said, touching her belly. "We're naming her after my grandmother." "Congratulations. I wanted to tell you something. I've been in therapy, working through a lot of family stuff. And my therapist asked me who I admired most in my life, who I wanted to be like." "What did you say?" "I said you." She met my eyes. "You're the strongest person I know. You survived my family. You survived my mother. And you did it with grace, even when we didn't deserve it. I wasn't always graceful. I was angry. I'm still angry sometimes. But you didn't let it destroy you. That's what matters." She stood up to leave. "I know we're not friends. I know we'll probably never see each other again after today. But I wanted you to know that you changed my life. Watching you walk away from people who didn't value you taught me that I could do the same." After she left, I sat on my couch for a long time, thinking about how strange life was. How the worst experiences could somehow lead to unexpected growth. How the people who hurt us could sometimes, accidentally, teach us the most important lessons. 2 years after the wedding, almost to the day, I received an envelope in the mail. Inside was a check, the final payment on Patricia's loan, plus a little extra. And a note in Patricia's handwriting. "Loan paid in full. Interest included, even though it wasn't required. Thank you for giving me a chance to do one decent thing. I hope your business continues to thrive. You deserve every success. Patricia." I stared at that note for a long time. Then I framed it and hung it in my office. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A reminder that people could change, that redemption was possible, that even the worst relationships could sometimes end with a small moment of grace. That same week, I got a call from a magazine. They wanted to do a feature on women entrepreneurs who'd overcome adversity. They wanted to tell my story. I almost said no. I'd spent so long trying to move past the Bennett drama. But then I thought about Sophie. About all the young women out there who might need to hear that survival was possible. So I said yes. The article ran 3 months later. It was honest about the difficulties I'd faced, the divorce, the sabotage, the near loss of my company. But it focused more on how I'd rebuilt, how I'd chosen to keep going, how I'd found peace. The day it published, I got a text from an unknown number. I saw the article. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry I was too weak to say that when we were married. You deserved better. David. I read it, smiled, and deleted it. I didn't need his validation anymore. I didn't need anyone's validation anymore. I had my company, I had my peace, I had my life back. And that was enough. On the second anniversary of the wedding, I did something I'd never done before. I closed the office for the day and took my entire staff out to dinner. Not to celebrate a client or a successful event, just to celebrate us. During dinner, Maya stood up and raised her glass. To Mira, for teaching us that success isn't about never falling down. It's about getting back up every single time. Everyone raised their glasses. I looked around the table at these people who'd stood by me, who'd believed in me, who'd fought for this company as hard as I had. To all of you, I said, none of this happens without you. We drank. We laughed, we told stories about the chaos of the Bennett wedding, and it felt good to laugh about it. To take something that had once been so painful and turn it into a story of survival. That night, I went home to my house. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my couch in the silence. I thought about the woman I'd been 3 years ago, the woman who'd been uninvited from a wedding and called a failure. I thought about everything she'd survived, everything she'd overcome, everything she'd learned, and I realized something. That woman wasn't gone. She was still here. She was me. She'd just grown, changed, become someone stronger, someone who knew her worth, someone who didn't need anyone's permission to exist. I raised my glass to the empty room. To failures, I said out loud, and to the women who prove everyone wrong. I drank, I smiled, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete, absolute, unshakable peace. I was free. I was whole. I was enough. I had always been enough.